Do you have a LinkedIn?
It's a very personal question.
101. Can we please welcome to the stage the Staves? Hey. We were just saying that you work so long on a record, and you release a single, so you get an idea. People get an idea of what those tracks sound like, but in the sort of 48 hours, 72 hours before releasing a whole new record, something that people are going to live with, they're going to listen to it in their cars on the way to school and work, they're going to be listening to it at home when they want to chill out and set their alarms to it. It's quite like a mad idea to hear that expectation of it. How does it feel right now in this moment, that expectation?
It feels quite surreal. I think because it's always the way with every album that you kind of go from the seeds of songs and bringing them together and do every single painstaking piece of work and decision on each little bit and tear your hair out about seemingly insignificant little bits. And then suddenly it's like, oh my God, it's going to be out in the world to kind of give to people and for them to hear it.
You're sharing it?
Sharing it, yeah. And kind of it stops being yours at that point. It's kind of...
Is that fun that you get to see it kind of living up, it's playing live and seeing people's reactions to it? You're like, okay, this is their song.
Yeah, I love it. We didn't get to do so much of that with the last album. I don't know if you guys remember, there was like a bit of a bug going around, like not so long ago. It kind of ruined a lot of releases, and it meant that we couldn't really play that last album very much. So it feels like there's a bit of unfinished business, and I want to get out and just like play it to people. And
singing together, playing together. Do you remember the first time that you had that moment? I'm presuming when you were pretty young, where you were singing together, and do you remember that first moment of alchemy? That first moment of, oh damn, we just kind of elevated ourselves there.
I don't remember the first moment. I just don't remember it not being there, if you know what I mean. We always sang together. Hi everyone, by the way. We always sang together, and I don't remember a kind of eureka moment, but I think I just remember people around us saying that it was, saying it was good, or realizing that not everyone was doing that with their siblings, or and our parents would sing a lot, and they'd sing in harmony together as well. So I think we'd really picked it up from them. And again, kind of realizing when you go around to other people's houses when you're a kid, and their dad's not playing guitar and the parents aren't singing together, and I guess we sort of realized we had a thing kind of happening or going on in our household or whatever. But I think it was always kind of easy and fun, and that's why we enjoyed doing it. It wasn't something that we decided to do and then sort of practiced loads or worked really hard at. It was just, I think, the things that you're good at are the things you sort of want to do and enjoy.
Yeah.
I try and do things that I'm not good at, and I just give up because I don't,
It's kind of the opposite
it's not fun.
Of school. I mean, I think one of the magical things about music, obviously people do study music, but for most people, I don't think most people don't study music. So music is that release for when you come home. You can't teach how you like a record. You can't teach that first time you see that band live and you sing along, and there's that kind of moment. And that's rebellious. It's rebellion.
I mean, I felt like it would have been more... I kind of wish there was more of a rebellious story with us, of like our parents banned music in the house and we just did it anyway. But yeah, I think music being a thing that exists, of course you can learn music and learn how to play instruments and all that sort of stuff, but I think the core of it, of sharing and communicating something with people, is just something you can do without anyone else's input. And it's the most powerful way of communicating with people.
It is communication, isn't it, music? And did that inform who you hang out with? Did that kind of guide you to your friend group at home? You know, that song "Best Friend" is like it's elevating. It's beautiful. It's got a spark to it, and it sounds like those are friends who are music fans as well.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up there were other families that lived down our road, basically, and they were all pretty musical as well. So there was a really nice kind of group of people my parents' age, and then their kids our age. They were all kind of up for getting the guitar out and, you know, opening bottles of wine and singing Bob Dylan songs, you know, on a Saturday night. And so I think kind of what you were saying, Mills, about not rebelling against your parents, it was more like, I kind of really want to hang out with you and your friends, because none of my friends are doing that. And that whole group of people kind of sort of got us going as a band. I think they were really encouraging about what we were doing as it was sort of emerging, you know, the kind of artists or musicians that we would end up being. You know, that all sort of forms in your teenage years usually, I think. But music with, you know, friends at school, obviously, you know, it's just being that age. I think everything you do, everything you listen to, every movie you watch, they're the formative years, and those things really, really stay with you. I know the albums that I listened to when I was a teenager off by heart. I can remember like the inside sleeves of all the CDs.
You can remember how long the gaps between songs are.
Yeah.
You know?
That's it.
It really does stay with you. And yeah, the song Best Friend was just kind of about Watford, really. Growing up in Watford, and just the joy and the magic of being young and having your whole life ahead of you, and being with your best mates, and just the ride that you're on, and you don't know where it's going, and it's great, and it's going at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
And Watford's kind of one of those places where, at least in the early noughties, there wasn't loads of culture, but there was still kind of a rich history and music, and you get on the train, you go down to the Astoria or wherever you're going to, and I feel like music was always appreciated in that area, but there was still a bit of like a tension there, like a tension of being like, okay, well, no one's gonna, if people don't book us for a show, we'll have to ask, we'll have to email and make those phone calls. Was that your experience?
Yeah, I think it's something to do with being from, you know, it's a suburb outside of London, so you're always dealing with the fact that everyone wants to go and see shows in London, and that's where all the venues are, and that's where the industry is, and that's where everything's happening. So Watford felt like, you know, a fringe area, and I think as a result there was quite a tight-knit community of musicians there that all banded together. And then when someone would play in London, everyone from Watford would go and see them. Yeah. I remember one of our first gigs, we played in the upstairs room at Ronnie Scott's years and years ago, and we brought like 50 people basically on a coach from Watford to come and see us. And the promoter was like, I'm booking you guys again because you brought so many people down. And we were like, yep, you can mobilise a crew in Watford. They're loyal.
The Horn of Gondor had been called.
Exactly.
And that's a scene. A scene is that kind of, people feel involved in it.
Yeah.
People want to be there. People want to travel because it's their experience as well.
Yeah, totally.
It's a real shared thing. Would you remember the first show that you thought, okay, we're going to, I mean, I know you said you do it for fun, it's something that you wanted to do, but was there a moment when you were like, okay, we're going to prioritize this band, this group, writing these songs over, I don't know, school or work or walkabout in Oceania?
Well, it was Destiny back then.
Destiny, yeah.
Destiny, yeah.
Destiny and Area, really top spots. There was. I think there was a time where Emily, our older sister, had finished uni and had been living up in Manchester where she went to uni. Then Jess had gone to uni and she'd finished. So it was kind of like, am I going to go to uni? Am I going to delay us being a band for another 3 years? So they robbed me of that opportunity. And yeah, that was kind of a galvanizing moment of just being like, no, fuck it, let's just commit and try and do it.
And what did that mean? Was that like a timing thing? That was like, okay, it's time. We're gonna put our time into this.
Yeah, I'm going to fully commit to being extremely poor for a very long time. Yeah.
I think we're like 6 years apart in age, from Emily being the eldest and you being the youngest and me being pretty much in the middle. And Emily studied acting in Manchester. She's a really good actor. And that was sort of her kind of trajectory, and that's sort of what she wanted to do. But we were always singing together for fun. And I think I knew that I wanted to do music, and I went to uni in Liverpool and did music there. And you were artistic, but again, always musical and always singing. And yeah, I think we were just kind of in those formative years where you're just sort of living a bit of life and figuring out how it's going to go. But we weren't like, aged 10, 12 and 15, like, right, we're going to go on tour and it was definitely like a slow burn.
I think also because it was like we weren't very, not confident, but we weren't very cocky. We weren't like, yeah, we're going to fucking make it and be stars. So I think that it didn't, it just seemed like a kind of far off dream. So it didn't actually seem like something like we could actually do this and be a band and have that be our job. So I think it wasn't kind of just seemed like a dream.
We did our first gig. So while we're talking about Watford, I should shout out the Horns pub in Watford, which I know has also, because of the bug that went round, has closed and reopened and closed and reopened again, but I believe that they are open again, so I'm giving them a shout out now. It was the best music venue in town, and we did our first gig there on Mum's birthday in 2004. And our friends who were a little bit older and a little bit more, seasoned sort of professional musicians kind of got a band together, and we all rehearsed a set. We were just doing covers at that point. We hadn't written our own songs, and I feel like that was the turning point of us feeling we should do something. But you were still like 16 or whatever, and so
I was 14, mate. I should not have been in that pub. They did not know. I was this height from like the age of 13. So
yeah, even
shout
then,
out to the Horns.
License revoked.
Closed for good now.
You can edit this, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was that felt like the moment that it felt really, really exciting. But then still classic us. It took us like 5 years to sort of properly start doing it.
Yeah.
It's funny, taking yourself seriously is, taking fun seriously, taking that creative discipline, maybe not like the sexiest of words sometimes, but having that discipline where you're like, oh, we like, you put work in it, and it becomes greater. It becomes greater than that idea, the potential.
Yeah, and I think that maybe that was it, kind of the moving from it being just like a fun thing that we really enjoyed doing, and also the fact that we weren't like, we just sung together. It wasn't like, oh, one of us plays bass, one of us plays drums, one of us, we weren't like a band. So I think we didn't even know how to go about booking ourselves gigs, and like felt a bit insecure about what if we're too quiet and we're not going to cut through all the noise, or we're not like cool enough or whatever when we were younger.
I think it started to come together when we started writing songs.
Definitely,
I think most artists start off covering other people's music, and then you kind of figure out what it is that you're into, and you start sort of chiseling away and shaping out what kind of artist you're going to be and what kind of songwriter, and cultivating your sound. And I think that probably happened not long after that, slowly but surely. I remember you had written a song when you were really young that she'd gone into the studio with her mate in like primary school, whose dad had a recording studio, and the song was brilliant. But I remember being as being your older sister, obviously I had to be a bitch, and I was like, yeah, it's all right, it's a bit lame, like, whatever. But I think I was jealous because it was so good. And it was like...
Can I get a sound bite of that after she was jealous? Just going to have that as my ringtone.
I think a bit like...
Public apology.
It was just like Mills is keeping her head down, and then suddenly she's like, yeah, I just did this. And I was like, oh my God, that's really good. Like, why didn't you tell me you were doing that? You went in with someone else? What?
She admitted it.
Yeah, sorry, that's a digression. But yeah, I think that I remember Emily was at uni, so whatever age, this is me trying to not reveal what age I am now. Oh, it was a while ago. I don't know. I was like 17 or something, and Em was at uni, and you and me started sort of Simon and Garfunkeling and doing a few duo gigs.
Robson and Jeroming it.
Yeah. Chaz and Daving it, and we did
Legends.
Did a few acoustic
Extremes?
gigs.
Is that the
Extreming it? Yeah. Any more?
I'll just keep thinking throughout it. Yeah.
We did a few gigs around Watford, and unveiling like original material, which I think was probably pretty shit, but it's just a testament to having great friends who support you, great musicians who like will play with you even though it's not the finished article, and great venues that want you to play there. We were just in a really good place with all of those things there for us to just naturally sort of slowly develop and become, the band that we ended up being. And I'm really, really grateful that we had that environment and had the time to do it as well, because I think there can be a real rush to sort of just get there.
I think people expect things to be the finished article straight away now.
Yeah.
When you do have to like eat shit for a while and kind of like really work on it and feel allowed to be a bit crap for a while, because you're learning and you're experiencing things and honing your craft.
And also, play shows where no one's really listening, because like, why would they? They don't know who you are, and it's all important. It's all part of sort of developing that, I don't know, that armour and the experience to be able to do it. You can't be too fragile. You have to sort of get a bit of strength and a bit of backbone doing it. And we've done it all, mate. We've done it all.
Looking back on it, did those times where you played to a pub and people weren't immediately interested, do you look back now and think, oh, actually there was a bit of freedom in that, because we could stretch our legs and fuck around and see what sounds good, because the stakes aren't high.
I guess in hindsight, yes. I think at the time it didn't feel very freeing. It probably felt pretty bleak. I remember there was a gig, there was about 5 people there, and the guy running the venue was like, we could just close and just kick them all out. There's not really any point, is it? And we were like, yeah, I guess so. We're sort of driven all the way to Nottingham, though. Should we just do it anyway? And he's like, yeah, all right. And I think he just wanted to go home and just shut the bar.
God, I remember that.
Yeah, it was grim.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's seeing it. And now talking about seeing it and feeling it, you've been very kind and offered to play a couple of songs tonight.
Yeah.
So if you'd be up for introducing the song you're going to play.
Yeah.
I was thinking about sort of sitting down there, but if I could just sit from the side and be very quiet.
If you just move like really close.
I spittle quite a lot, so it's quite dangerous.
That's good. I was hoping that would be the case.
We are going to play a song called I Don't Say It, But I Feel It. And it's from the new record. Could you pass me one of those picks? One of the things that inspired the song is a Welsh word called Hiraeth, and our mum was Welsh, and she would tell us about this word, and it means, it's like a type of homesickness or like a longing for a time or a place, and it's one of those words that I think it doesn't quite translate exactly to anything in English, which I think is also sort of what makes it slightly more intriguing and magical. So that was one of the inspirations for this song.
Just going to check the tuning.
Check the old tuning. Other facts about the song. We give away a huge spoiler in the first line of the song, which is revealing that we are English.
Don't know if you could tell.
which you'll hear very soon when we begin the song, because it's the first line.
You're doing great. All right, I think that should be all right.
Yeah, that's better. Okay. I don't say it, but I feel it. Is it because I'm English? What's all the news then? How is the music? And are you happy? I didn't say anything. Lay down the towels, lie in the sunshine. I'm so in love with you. I'm so in love. I'm so in love. I'm so in love. You got the magic, I think I missed it. Homesick for a place that never existed. You got the magic, I think I missed it. Homesick for a place that never existed. Oh, but I feel it, my poolside companion, golden medallion. I want to be just like you when I grow up. Don't burn the house down, don't let the kids out. You run the show now, yes, you own the house. You got the magic, I think I missed it. Homesick for a place that never existed. You got the magic, I think I missed it. Homesick for a place that never existed. Oh, but I feel it. Oh, but I feel it. I don't say it, I don't say it, I don't say it. I'm so in love, 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 I'm so in love with you. You got the magic, I think I missed it. Homesick for a place that never existed. You got the magic, I think I missed it. Homesick for a place that never existed. I don't say it, but I feel it. Is it because I'm English?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's magic.
Thank you.
That's good fun, isn't it? Playing music in a brewery.
Organising a piss up in a brewery.
Success.
Organising a podcast in a brewery.
Put that on your LinkedIn. Do you have a LinkedIn?
Oh, that's one of the most wonderful questions.
It's a very personal question. Do you?
Yeah, I update it all the time, actually.
Do you? What is it like? What's your description?
Description is like, it's a creative podcast host and producer.
Yeah.
Professional bullshitter.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, not much experience. I did get a 2-1 at university, despite not turning up to much of it.
That's good.
Which
really
sounds
good.
like a brag, actually, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Don't say it out loud.
You can brag about it. That's good. No sad brag.
You pop that on the LinkedIn as well.
Put that on the LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And also that I lied to get in most jobs that I've had. So
don't put that on
But there is that thing, it's like, there are some bullshit questions that are like, how many car windows are there in Brazil? And so not that they're trying to ask for an exact number, they're going to ask you for the process of how you arrive to your answer.
Who asks that
on LinkedIn?
Fucking Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. Did you?
Jeez.
Have you ever been fired from a job?
Yeah.
Do tell.
Go on.
I think gross misconduct. No, it was, I worked in a bar. I think it was a combination of me maybe not being very good at the job and not caring about it. So I think that shone through ultimately to the boss who let me go.
It will do that.
It was a part-time job. It didn't mean anything spiritually or emotionally.
I had a lot of trouble caring when I worked in a pub as well.
Yeah, it was hard to sort of, and I think that's a massive difference between us and Emily, because Emily, who's not here, works really, really hard in any task, any role she's given. She's like a really exemplary employee. She would be, I don't know if you get stars on LinkedIn, she'd be 5 stars, if that's the thing.
So we all
She goes above and beyond.
Yeah, she does in
and
anything
we don't.
she does, and we very much don't.
Unless we have to, unless it's something we really care about. But if it's something I don't, I'll be like, well, I'll
do the bare minimum.
Bare minimum, get by, take the money and run.
Take the money and run.
Yeah.
But we all were signed up to the same temp agency in Watford.
Oh yeah.
What was it called?
Office Angels.
Yes.
And we all had our time with Office Angels, and Emily was like the golden girl of Office Angels. She got like Angel of the Month every month.
So I went in because she said you should join Office Angels because this is temp work, and I was like, yeah, okay. And I went into the office, and there was a picture of her on the wall with a star saying "Employee of the Angel of the Month."
A little shrine with a little candle burning.
And she said, "Oh, it was really embarrassing because they came into the placement I was on with like a bouquet of flowers and said like, congrats."
She says it's embarrassing, but she loved it.
Yeah.
So did you two feel, well, I guess you could kind of be in her slipstream there. It's like having an older sibling at school where you get the teacher that they had.
Yeah.
And if your older sibling was a troublemaker, you know you got trouble from the teacher. If your older sibling was good and Emily-like, sounds like.
Well, we all went to the same school. So when I started school, Emily was already, I think she was in her last year at school, and all the teachers would be like, oh, hello, I'm your Emily's sister. So she'd already paved the way for us to be okay.
You two really helped me out with that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
When you've talked about how Emily is like your cool older sister, and you'd go and you'd want to impress her, and that kind of idea of wanting to impress someone can be a very powerful idea. She must have heard this new record. She must have heard it at all times.
Yeah.
What was it like showing her and those? What were you individually like? What were your emotions when you were sending stems and ideas and hooks to Emily?
Well, I know. So on the record, Emily, she is actually singing on I think 3 tracks on the album. So we made the album in LA, basically this time last year, and Emily had just had her second baby. So she didn't come, obviously. And so when we got back, she came to the studio in London and she sang on those 3 songs. And they were songs that felt just like important that she was on. They were kind of songs about sort of shared experiences for the 3 of us. And obviously having her voice was brilliant, but also spiritually it felt like important to have her on those songs. But even then, she hadn't actually heard the whole album. We just sent her those songs. She'd heard some of the other ones, like in the sort of process. So I think when we sent her everything, I got a message from her one morning when I woke up, and she'd been up all night with the baby, you know, feeding and crying, saying like, I just heard After School, which is the song that we wrote basically about her on the record. And she just said like, I just wept and cried my eyes out and I loved it.
That's so nice.
And I just thought, well, that's the only review that I need, really. You know, if she's happy, then I think we've made a good album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing each other so well, I imagine you can't... Writing lyrics, I think it's quite easy to phone it in, for anyone to phone it in, to not really be blunt or say the thing that you're trying to say, which is hard to do in itself. Knowing each other so well, you're going to recognize when the other one is being completely truthful or maybe not. I guess it's kind of intuition, right? It's a gut feeling. Yeah. Has that, and this is a question for my brother who's a big fan, you know, wanted to ask this question for you, is that, do you feel like you've allowed each other to be more vulnerable because you're sisters?
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of situation where you're right. Each of us respectively will, for the most part, know what the other person is talking about in a song, because we know each other so well and know the experiences that we've gone through, for the most part. And but yeah, I think as things have gone on, well, okay, in general, I feel very lucky that I don't feel embarrassed about bringing anything to the table in front of them, because it's a safe set of ears. I was about to say pair of ears, but what would it be? There's 4 ears. 2 pairs of ears.
Yeah. Quadra-ears.
Quadra-ears, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a very nice, safe environment, I think, where we don't have to kind of censor ourselves or feel worried about like sounding like an idiot in front of the other person.
It's it, and I feel like we do live in that. Well, I think that most everyone here has had that experience where you don't want to say that thing in your group of friends or in that scenario because you don't want to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a superpower not having that worry.
Yeah, and I think it's cultivated, you know, by having relationships with the right people. That trust is sort of built, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
But I also think that with lyrics to songs, very often, even though we know each other so well, it's also sometimes quite informative of like, oh, so that's how you're doing. You know, you've said something in a song that you wouldn't say in conversation. And that's kind of the thing with lyrics, isn't it? They're a bit more, they can be more abstract or they can cut right to the point. But that person whose song you've just heard, you might have just been hanging out in the pub with all night and just having banter with, and you don't actually realise how they're feeling. So I think it's made us know each other even more.
Do you journal? Do each of you journal?
No.
Or write a diary?
No, I feel that I should, and I feel a sort of sense that I'm sort of doing something wrong by not. I don't know why. I feel like it's sort of an artistic thing to do. There's a book with a collection of famous journals and extracts from, I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, no, I don't.
I think it's easy to write a journal and just write down the bad things, the shit things. So like, this happened to me and I'm annoyed about it, and it's a venting. It's basically a vent journal. But you don't. You want to put everything in there. You want to be honest in there. And
I think the songs become that though.
Yeah,
don't they? In a way. They become the diary. I mean, not a daily diary, but you can sort of look back retrospectively and in the way that you might. I don't know. Do people keep journals in a sort of alphabetical order, year order on shelves, and then they go back and say, "That's what I was doing in 2010." Whereas I find an old voice note or something and go, "Oh right, yeah, okay." Yeah. So I'm still, doing that.
Do you collect those? Will you? Because that's your life. It's such a huge part of your life. It's easy to get a new phone and lob the old one away, and now someone in CEX has got it. But have you been like, have you put it in Dropboxes and kept that away.
Well, there's lots of hard drives in drawers and sort of wires coiled up in knots, and it's one of those things you think at some point I'm going to catalogue all of this and make sure that if the hard drive breaks, the stuff on it's fine, and obviously I haven't, and it's all just still in a drawer under a bed gathering dust.
Yeah, same.
It would be good to have. I think that is the equivalent of journaling, hard driving.
Yeah. Hard driving. How romantic
That's
is that?
so hardcore.
I don't journal on
File
hard
cataloguing.
drive.
Yeah. I guess it's not the most natural thing to go back and listen to your first records, and those first records are on major record labels, and do you think you'd listen back to those songs now and think, okay, that's where we were, in the songwriting, but also as a band, as a group of people trying to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, do something special within the realms of this pretty traditional record label infrastructure? Was there some of that in it as well? Some kind of like hopes and dreams and frustrations?
I think that in the first album, it was quite a difficult one to record because I think we weren't quite ready to do it, really. I think we got quite swept up in we just met like producers that really liked us and told us we were good, and so we were very flattered and were like, oh my god, maybe we are good. And then they set up a meeting with the head of Atlantic, and then they just offered us a record deal, and I think it felt like, well, we have to say yes to this because this is a really, on paper, good opportunity.
Yeah, when does it come again?
Yeah, and then kind of they suggested a manager that we use, and we were like, okay, well, we better do that. And then before you know it, you're kind of making an album, and all of it's not really been your decision. It's kind of been stuff that's been suggested, and you've been kind of led. Not that anyone was doing anything out of malice, but I think definitely listening to that first album, I feel very proud of it, but I think I can hear tentativeness there. Maybe just because I'm hearing how I felt while I was doing it.
Growing in public.
Yeah, it felt like that. It felt like it would have been good for us to kind of find our sea legs and find our voice in the studio a bit more, and how to get our ideas across. And
yeah, I think that all the things you spoke about, all those things that you need to have in place in order to sort of step out and do it, and have a manager and a label and all those things. I mean, it was a really exciting time, and we wanted all of those things, and we did seek it out. But I think that by the time it all came about, I don't know. I wonder if we had some sense that we weren't quite ready, and maybe they had more faith in us than we had in ourselves, which is a really nice thing. But I think that I listened to the first album, and I think it could have maybe just been 2 sort of EPs or something, and then we could have gone off and toured more and figured out what we were doing a bit more. So I think when we made the second album, it felt like our first album, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
It felt like we'd kind of arrived a bit more at where we were and what we wanted to do, and production-wise, I think it was a lot more in line with how we would have imagined our music to be, and a little bit more expansive, and I love the first album, and I'm proud of it, but I think that it felt that we were very much in the developmental stage. And I mean, maybe you always are with your first record, and maybe it's never the right time, and it will never be any other way than what it was, so we'll never know. And hindsight's, an easy thing, isn't it, to look back on? But I think, we were babies, really. When I listen to that, we just sound so young and so kind
my
of...
voice has gone down a couple couple of bits.
It's funny because for the rest of us, it's like it almost, because now, I mean, releases, obviously they come out on physical format. An album is called an album or an LP, but I mean, with Bandcamp and Spotify and just the way we listen to music now, the way I listen to a first record, it could be called a demo, it could be called a tape, it could be called a bootleg. For me, it's like when you listen to a good record and then go back with that band and see where they came from, that kind of adds to the journey. It adds to the gravel path of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just takes confidence to give yourself permission to do that. Do you know what I mean? In the beginning of like, fuck it, I'm not going to do things in the kind of way that is the framework that is set out, and be able to do that. I think it takes a bit of kind of, a bit of chutzpah.
Good word.
Thank you so much. And I think we were maybe a bit too kind of overly good-mannered, or wanting to kind of please people, you know. But you're right. Kind of, you don't have to follow rules so much anymore.
Fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them. And maybe you never had to, but especially now, you don't have to. I mean, you won't get paid either way, so that's kind of liberating.
But I think that there's like with music and maybe with across lots of things, but with the arts certainly, you know, if you're an actor or an artist or whatever, there's like a window that opens where there's interest in you and there's momentum and you're hot at that point. And there is a lot of pressure to capitalise on it and to seize those opportunities, and the feeling that if you don't, they're going to go away and they're never going to come back. And I think to an extent that never really leaves, that feeling that you could disappear into obscurity at any point. You know, we're not in control of anything. But I think certainly when you're starting out, when big opportunities come your way, it's very hard to say like, nah, I don't think that's right for me. I'm just going to kind of sit back and take some kind of different, more alternative path. Unless you're really confident, you've got a real plan. And I think most people don't. So I think that we kind of rolled with what came our way, and sort of, and I think you kind of have to, you know, in some way or in some shape or form.
I find it so interesting how bands and artists, you define yourself by your own value of success, but ultimately you never know what that is actually going to be, how that's going to materialize. So having that kind of part of you that's like, yep, I'm happy with this is awesome, even on the bad days it's pretty cool, you know, that's some sturdiness. And I think that's from, you know, growing up reading all these music magazines, those are the bands that seem to stay together the longest. The ones who are like, yeah, cool, we're going to ride this out no matter what happens.
Yeah, ride out the changes.
Yeah.
When you came to that second record, by that point, had you sort of had those kind of serious conversations with each other where you've had to be honest with each other, and maybe it doesn't feel so good to be like, I think this, and you had to say it to each other's faces? Were there some serious chats where you had to be honest to yourself and each other?
Well, I think that because we're sisters, I think that it had kind of been happening continuously, and like bickering along the way, and being, I don't know, two people having the same opinion about the direction in which something should go, and one person not, and that one person would change every other day, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to, within a band, have someone that is always making the others question something, whoever that is. I think we kind of kept each other in check and made sure that we were kind of diplomatic and on a road that pleased everyone.
It's not easy.
No, it's not. It's not. And I think 3 is it's a funny number in that way. And I think at one point, maybe we were having so many disagreements that we had to decide on a majority vote. So 2 people say yes, and only one person saying no, we'll do it. And I remember later on hearing Paul McCartney talking about the Beatles, and he said if there was one no out of the 4, we wouldn't do it. And I was like, oh shit, we're doing it wrong. He's so right, exactly. Oh my god, yeah, that's what we should be doing. So I think that no can be very loud, can't it? It can be louder than a yes. And it's important to listen to it. But it can be frustrating if you don't all agree. And also, during that period of putting out the first album and touring, we were learning how to be a band and learning how to be musicians and writers, and that was all developing. But we were learning how to be sisters, siblings, in like a business entity together, as well as musical together, and all that kind of those sibling relationships that spill through no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try. You know, older sisters very organised and hardworking, and middle sister is, well, I don't know, that's me. I can't really speak for myself. Younger sister is obviously a legend. But it was just the sort of learning years. Not that we finished learning, and you never do. But I look back on them and we just had so much fun. And I'm sure there was complete chaos, so we didn't really know what we were doing. And I'm sure we would do it differently now, knowing what we know now. But it was a fun time.
Yeah.
It really, really was.
In what kind of way? Like kind of like reckless and.
Yeah, I think reckless, and I think talking about that song "Best Friend" and that kind of running off with your mates and having fun. We got to do that as sisters, and with, you know, various band members and friends along the way. And it was just like the most fun that you could have, being with the people that you love. You guys were the people that I'd want to hang out with all the time anyway. So it's like, well, we might as well do this together then. And we just got to go around the whole world and meet so many amazing people and have so many amazing experiences and play amazing shows and work with incredible people. And I just remember laughing. I feel like we just laughed for like 7 years, and now we don't laugh anymore because we're old.
All now seriously sounds like a fun record. It's a very liberating record.
I thought you were going to say it sounds like you've stopped laughing.
Sounds like. But it's like a roll the windows down. That's such a cliche to say, isn't it? But it's that there is a large amount of joy in the record.
Thanks. Oh, thank you.
And you said how that's kind of, you know, you felt kind of liberated over the last couple of years. There have been those tougher times and some real life times, and so to kind of let your hair down, as it were, and just kind of throw your hands up and enjoy. That's what it sounds like. I guess I'm putting kind of words in your mouth there, but is that kind of what it was? Did you know that when you were writing these songs?
Well, I think it's more like it was about really kind of, if we were going to do something, we wanted to kind of commit to it fully and go the whole hog and really like own up to what we were feeling and own up to like production decisions and things. So the opposite of what I was saying about the first album, like we didn't want it to sound tentative or anything. And it's funny you say that, because it's felt like even the songs that are not actually particularly positive, which is kind of a lot of them, end up, to us anyway, and sounds like to you, feeling quite galvanizing and quite happy. Because I think that sometimes you can, like, I don't know, celebrate the fact that you're feeling shit rather than feel ashamed about it.
We all know that feeling of going home and feeling shit and putting on a record that's really sad.
Yeah.
And somehow it feels good.
Feeling comforted by it somehow, or I don't know. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah,
feeling.
I think there's hope in the record.
Yeah.
And I think really it's hard to sort of sometimes explain when you're on the inside of something, but I think that it's definitely about self-understanding and kind of searching. And I think that, I mean, hopefully to people that listen to it, but for us, having made it, I think we felt that there was joy on there and there was hope amongst the angst or the searching that's in there as well.
Resolve, at least.
And and sort of strength and resolve, that ultimately no one has the answers and we're all going to keep sort of searching, and so you'll be okay, basically.
There's a skin full of stuff that happens in all of our lives.
Yeah.
And I think looking directly at it and like embracing it can be a very empowering thing.
Yeah.
Definitely.
One of the songs you said you were going to play is from this new record. It's the title track. Could you tell us a bit about All Now, the song, and how it kind of came out?
Well, it kind of came from...
Am I doing this too prematurely?
When you just get it queued up, you know? Well, it kind of came from out of a period of pretty intense writer's block, really. Didn't have any ideas, which is really, 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 really depressing and very frustrating. And it can send you into a bit of a spiral of just being like, well, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what am I even like a true musician if I don't have ideas? And like, I know I've got a lot of feelings, but I can't quite get them out. And then from that place of frustration, I guess I started kind of looking at how much people express themselves now and the varying ways of documenting that that can sometimes make you, I don't know, you can sometimes be left with feeling like you're feeling a feeling wrong. Like, am I being sad? Right? Am I being happy? Right? Like, should I be, I don't know, filming myself crying and putting it on Instagram and like trying to become like some activist for something? Is it enough to just be a person that feels something? And do I have to feel super empowered about how cool everything is now and how like accepted everyone is? Because I don't think they are that accepted a lot of the time. It's not that great, guys. It's quite shit a lot of the time, actually. And I resent having to pretend that it's amazing. And sometimes it's quite comforting to hear someone else be like, can be a bit shit sometimes. Yeah. And I don't want to go to the party.
Yeah.
I want to stay home.
That's a great line in the song.
Thank you very much.
Classic younger sibling, right?
Shut up.
Everything's shit.
I just wish people understood me.
So misunderstood.
I feel like that was the most angsty fucking way of talking about that song. It's not all bad, it's just a bit sarcastic.
It's not all bad, it's all now.
There she is.
Classic middle sibling.
Classic.
I don't even know what that means.
Shouldn't have to, mate.
I'm going to twist round so I can see you a bit more.
Yeah, shall I?
I start this, don't I?
You
Yes,
do,
okay.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
Still the value on the package and the camera on the skin. Still the focus on the eye, not the biscuit, just the tin. And I'm standing here screaming, where do we begin? Where do we begin? Where do we begin? It's all now, isn't it exciting? We can stick it to the man, come out fighting, unencumbered, fast as lightning. I can act like I'm fine, I can put it in writing. It's all now, isn't it exciting? Isn't it exciting? Isn't it exciting? Isn't it? Isn't it? Show the scars on your stomach, show the hurt on your sleeve. Rub their faces in the dirt, give them something to believe in. Do what you want, just be aggressively free. Be aggressively free, be aggressively free. It's all now, isn't it exciting? We can stick it to the man, come out fighting, unencumbered, fast as lightning. I can act like I'm fine,
fine. I can put it in writing. It's all now, isn't it exciting? Isn't it exciting? Isn't it exciting? Isn't it? Oh, isn't it? Don't be angry at the kid, had it easier than me. Bitterness is only fine if nobody can see. Be the brand of empowerment I'm supposed to be, I'm supposed to be, I'm supposed to be. It's all now, isn't it exciting? We can stick it to the man, come out fighting, unencumbered, fast as lightning. I can act like I'm fine, I can put it in writing. It's all now, isn't it exciting? Isn't it exciting? Isn't it exciting? Isn't it? Oh, isn't it? Would it be alright if I said this one out tonight? But you can go wild, dear. Happy New Year. Have a happy New Year. It's all now, isn't it exciting? We can stick it to the man, come out fighting, unencumbered, fast as lightning. I can act like I'm fine, I can put it in writing. It's all now, isn't it exciting? Isn't it exciting? Isn't it exciting? Isn't it? Oh, isn't it? Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Was that written
everyone.
around New Year?
I don't think it was, actually. I think it was kind of maybe thinking about saying I'm going to check out, and then maybe that brought me to thinking about the ultimate epitome of a night where you're supposed to have a really, really good time. And you put all that pressure on it being great. And sometimes you lie to yourself and think like, oh my God, I had such a good time last night, and you didn't really. But other people, I endorse you having a really happy New Year.
What's your ideal night out? I'm thinking like, does it start with an Indian? Does it start with a Subway? Where are we going with this?
Well, when
jeez.
I was treading the boards in Watford, the night would end with Subway very often. And
That's rank, man.
yeah, I used to get a foot-long sub, obviously not finish it. I just feel awful afterwards. And then it progressed to kebabs, but I would always go for like falafel from the kebab shop. From Kismet, which is gone now.
Oh, Kismet kebabs.
Yeah, guys, it's gone.
Watford High Street.
It's something else now, chicken shop.
RSVP.
Yeah, it was great. Starting the night with a curry. So that would be my favourite meal. My concern is I'm going to be really tired.
Going to be ever so tired after that, aren't you?
Yeah, that would be my worry. That
That's
and a
the
jacket
great-
potato make you too tired for a night out.
Jacket potato, crispy on the outside, fluffy in the middle.
Yeah,
If you can,
100%.
if possible.
Yeah,
Pos.
ideally.
But that's the perfect reason to dip from a night out. You're like, guys, I'm just not quite feeling it.
Yeah, yeah.
Smash
Just
2 jacket pots.
also, I've made myself sound like the biggest, like, oh, I hate socialising and I hate going out.
No.
I love going out, but very much on my terms.
I think a curry. Okay, so if we're not worrying about falling asleep, yes, that would be a great start because it's just going to be great food, good vibes.
The only thing is, I get too. I love curry, but I get too overexcited with it, so I don't know when to stop. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of like keep piling it in until I feel sick. So it's not. There's no space physically for like booze afterwards.
Yeah,
because it's full kind of up to the gullet.
So
and
I'm
that's
thinking
the shape that you're making at the club.
Yeah.
It's the gullet shape.
Yeah,
would you start the night with a curry? Would you be all right?
Yeah, have done.
Yeah. We've all been there. I mean.
Yeah, I mean it's a classic era, really. But when you go home, do you enjoy time for yourself and like spending so much time together when you're home? Will you take some time apart and have those experiences alone? Go for a walk and go to Canterbury Park or down the canal or something?
Yeah, we do. We do spend time apart. We don't live together. I think some people think we do because we do spend a lot of time together. But it's important to get space.
Yeah, definitely.
But we're always in touch. You know, I mean, we have to be for only because we have to be. No, but we're always in touch. It's never long that we don't see each other for or speak to each other. But yeah, you have to strike a healthy balance. And actually, talking about those crazy, hazy years where I said, I just remember laughing the whole time. I also now I'm thinking about it, and I do remember being really burnt out because it was really tiring. We were away from home so much.
I think we hit it very, very hard in the first album.
We were really away from everything and living in our own weird world together. And it was magical and great, but yeah, it was important when we got home, I think, to just have some sort of normality again. And sometimes that means not seeing each other for 24 hours a day.
I think it's important, for that to happen.
Having that agency over yourself. I didn't have a flat of I'm quite lucky that I for many years I was just sleeping on other people's floors, and when I eventually got a flat and I found somewhere cheap enough, because basically that's the rule, I mean in London at least, they found somewhere cheap enough, great, get it, found this place that's cheap enough that I still am now, and it's like, oh, I realized I needed that agency for myself. I needed like a home that was mine. You need space. You need to have your own pots and pans and do your own washing. You know what I mean? Just do the normal shit.
Yeah. But we were always based at one time or another at our mum's house in Watford. So like we'd all move out and go to uni, and then eventually someone would move back for whatever reason, and it was always there as like the base that one or two or three of us would be living at any one time. And that was great, and it was what made it. It was the house that we'd all grown up in, so it was a proper home and a base. But I remember that you were living with Mum. I'd moved out. Emily had moved out, and I think you did feel a bit like, I'm with my family every day on tour, and then I come home and I'm at home again with my mum, and it was a bit like it's really important to step out on your own. It really, really is. But I think that the reality for a lot of people is that they do live with their parents for longer now.
Yeah.
Our generation, I guess.
Yeah, like I feel like 24 now is kind of like 18, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think most people
definitely.
are expecting to, if they can, if they're lucky enough to be able to stay with their parents, if they're still up for giving them a room without renting it too much or something. And it just makes it, that's a big part of this podcast and this conversation really, is it's like, okay, how do you try and make a living doing something that you like? Or rather, how do you stay away from doing something that you hate and working at that bar where you're like, this is a giant waste of time. And some people might love working in bars, but some people, it could be any job. And so how do you, jobs is something that we're talking about a lot after COVID in this time. Like, how do you, because we're so different to our parents' generation. Our parents, at least my parents, and I think lots of people's parents, it's like, they got a job and they stuck it out. And money was probably a good reason why they did, like the 80s and the 90s, and bought nice countryside houses in the home counties. That's not our generation now. You can
Yeah.
work really hard now. It's not a meritocracy. You can work as
Yeah.
hard as much as you like. You're still going to get paid maybe like 25 to 30 grand. So that's kind of like the whole context of this. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, how do you afford your life? And so playing in bands where you're looking at streaming revenue, which can literally be pennies,
Yeah.
or YouTube ads where, you know, YouTube, I think you can still get like 1 million plays on YouTube, but it's only a few £100. How have you navigated that, and how have you kind of managed to get a handle on, okay, this is our life, we've got enough reason to do this. If we didn't do it, we'd be doing it wrong. But how do we kind of stay realistic and think, okay, how do we pay for rent at our flats and go out for a curry and do what you want to do, afford the life that you want?
Yeah.
Well, I think that I think burning ourselves out early days, although it was tough and not good for the old mental health, it also meant that we played in a lot of places and played to a lot of people and kind of managed to get a fan base who's extremely loyal, and thank God keep coming back and just the best. And I think that for us has been what has allowed us to carry on doing it, because
Yeah.
if you're relying on streams and things like that, it's extremely difficult. That wasn't intentional, by the way. That's just natural.
Was it not?
No, it wasn't. It's extremely difficult. Like the landscape of music is extremely difficult.
So is that T-shirts? These are records. These are
Things.
people coming to the shows and buying physical things. That's where
Well, paying for tickets. I think live shows.
Yeah. Income from live.
Income
is
from live.
Bread and butter, really.
Yeah, and I think that's the same story for a lot of people. I think to make money from streaming alone, you have to be one of the kind of like insanely successful people, you know? And we were talking about, before we started recording this upstairs, we were talking about how that's kind of what most of music is made up of, these people who are kind of in the middle. And there's like a very small percentage that are the crazy top streamers who have like your Taylor Swifts and things like that. But for the rest of us, it is a constant juggling act, really, and being kind of flexible with how things are changing all the time. And when we first signed a record deal, I don't think streaming was even mentioned in it.
I don't think streaming was in the record contract, and I think Spotify had just sort of started at that point. So we've seen the change of the industry happen during our career.
How could it get better, do you think? Aside from like the big ones, which is like Spotify paying more and streaming services, you know, DSPs across the board paying more. What could, and this is a ginormous question, so feel free to, you know, say it's too big, but we got companies like Independent Venue Week and charities who are trying to encourage burgeoning scenes, whether it's Watford or Scunthorpe or Glasgow or cities, big and small villages, where there's shows. I mean, that is where, because it's about people, right?
Yeah.
If all of your fans gave you £1, that'd be pretty sick. You know, so how do you make that happen?
We'll be leaving a hat at the door on the way out.
Is that one of the ways? Again, I guess I'm kind of putting this idea out there, but you know, is it reaching people on an individual level?
I just think that's. I mean, again, I don't pretend to have all the answers, but
because there's that 1,000 true fans concept, isn't there?
If you have a certain number of fans that paid a subscription, it was £5 or £10. Then you would be able to afford a house, or a mortgage.
Like that.
You know.
Yeah, I don't quite know how it works.
But I just hate, though, that is kind of even something that one has to think about, because if you make something and you manufacture it and you record it and you put it out for people to have, you should expect to be paid accordingly. Like, you wouldn't just go into a shop and be like, oh, I really like that, I deserve to have that for free. Like, in what other place does that exist? It's insane. But because it's something that has always been part of our lives, music, and that we enjoy it, I think there's a mentality that, like, you're lucky to be doing this, you're lucky to be doing that, so you're kind of a charity case or something.
It's complicated.
It's really, really complicated. And of course it is, everyone has to do things differently, but I almost think it has to be of course there's investing in local scenes and music and on a kind of the ground level, but also from the top, there has to be some kind of legislation that means that there has to be a minimum amount, like a minimum fucking wage of what you're allowed to get your stuff.
I think that if individuals can get stuff for free, then they're going to want to.
Yeah.
And that's sort of not...
Exactly.
This is why we read The Guardian and press later.
Yeah,
exactly.
If it's on offer...
You know, I don't blame anybody if you've got an option to get something for free or to buy it.
That's the thing, that's why it's not the
onus...
fact
that the options are there, doesn't come from the individuals, it comes from... But I guess the industry was structured for so long around... that old sales model, and then I guess everything's changed and people are trying to catch up, and I don't really know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm grateful for anyone who buys our vinyl or downloads it on a platform that you pay for it, or buys a ticket to a show. I was looking at tickets recently for a gig, and tickets are really expensive now if you want to see a bigger artist. I remember us going to see Paul McCartney with our mum, which was probably like 20 years ago. And I think the tickets were like 40 quid. We went to see him at Earl's Court. Brilliant.
RSVP.
But like 40 quid for a ticket to see Paul McCartney, it wouldn't happen now. And everything is so much more expensive. I don't know what the answer is. And it's expensive on the other side of it, not being the ticket buyer, but being the performer. To put on a show is expensive, and to pay the wages and all the
but I suppose that's why
outgoings.
it's reflected in the old.
Yeah.
Do you think we're sounding really old now?
No, this is real.
I mean,
this
to see
is
McCartney back in 2004. I think
the least
half a crown to get into that gig.
You've got to talk about it, because it is kind of separating that divide. These events are for people who make more money, and everyone else can not get a ticket and not go, and then not
how
part of
like
it.
the theatre
Sad.
is seen as this sort of more high class sort of space where it's like, well, it's so expensive to go and see West End productions, but now it's like it's the same as just going to see a gig of anyone that's of a certain level.
Elton John.
Yeah.
Would you play with Elton John at Vicarage Road?
Yeah, obviously 100%.
Yeah.
Is that something that we can try and do?
I think we should try.
Well, hasn't he just clocked out now?
Well, yeah, but we could find him on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And get in touch.
He's always around. I think Elton doesn't truly want to step away from the limelight.
He
I think he can still be found.
Have you spoken with him? Because he does his Apple radio show that plays a lot of...
He hasn't fucking asked us, mate.
This
Not
is
invited.
It. All of this after, we'll find his LinkedIn and we'll message his manager.
If we tell him that we're from Watford, hopefully that will just be a straight skip the queue sort of pass to getting on it.
Yeah, I hope so.
Right?
I mean, this is what is like the dream scenario in the next few years. With this record coming out, you're going to be able to tour it. You're going to be able to reach people on a physical level and come home from those tours, have some time to yourself, keep on writing.
Not speak to each other.
Not speak to each other. Turn the blue ticks on WhatsApp off.
Yeah.
So you get away with it.
Yeah.
I mean, what is like a healthy, sustainable future for you look like? I mean, is it more of the same?
Well, we've got a representative here from our record label and our manager as well, so they could probably answer these questions better than we.
We had one of those mics on a massive stick.
Communion Records, great independent record label.
Great label.
Puts out some amazing stuff, all different sounding stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exciting to be around that.
And actually, Communion, we've known the founders and the sort of the people that started Communion, Kev and Ben, and Jamie and Maz, for so long, that they've sort of been family for ages prior to us working with them as them being our label. So when we were looking for labels for this record, because we'd been with the same label for years up until this point, it just made so much sense to go with them. And we couldn't be happier. They're brilliant.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You have to say that. They're here.
No, I do not.
Millie and Jess, thank you so much for the chat. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for playing these songs.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be in person.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, cheers.
Anytime.
Thank you.
You're going to play us one last song.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about it before you do?
It's called "I'll Never Leave You Alone."
Yes. It's the new single.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Right? This song, I think it's one of the songs I've enjoyed playing live. I mean, we haven't played many of the songs from the new record live very much, but I've really enjoyed playing this song. It was I think sort of inspired by the kind of sort of storytelling and kind of like old turns of phrase and sort of adages.
It's very Chaz and Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very Chaz and Dave.
Actually, yeah, and there is a line about a rabbit in it as well.
There is.
Rabbit.
But that sort of came from storybooks and nursery rhymes and poems, and that's sort of how the song kind of began, and the idea of kind of like opposites, how you can be good and you can be bad, and night and day, and so on and so forth.
How you can kind of be all of it at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where the song came from. Are we sounding? Yeah. So yes, this is I'll Never Leave You Alone, and thank you so much everyone for being here, and thanks so much for having us as well.
I'm a horse, I'm a dog, I'm a sparrow, I'm a spider inside you, trying to keep you off the straight and narrow. Pick me up, put me down, let me dangle. I'm a carrot on a string, I'm the sword as it hangs above you. Oh, oh, oh. Ooh, oh, oh, oh. I'm the curse, I'm the cure, the solution. I'm the reality and the illusion. I'm a kid, I'm a friend, I'm a teacher. I'm the object in the distance, but you'll never reach her. Oh, oh, oh. Ooh, oh, oh, oh. I'm a rat, I'm a dirty little liar. I'm a deep sea diver, I'm a backseat driver in a storm. I'm the chord, I'm the bell that keeps ringing. The stone in your shoe, I'm the bird your cat keeps bringing home. Oh, oh, oh. I'll never leave you alone. Oh, oh, oh. I'll never leave you alone. I'm a rabbit, I'm the hunter in the snare. Daddy's little princess, mommy's little nightmare. I'm the window, I'm the door you you should have chosen. Oh, oh, oh. I'll never leave you alone. Oh, oh, oh. I'll never leave you alone. Oh, oh, oh. Ooh, oh, oh, oh. I'll never leave you alone. Push me away, but I'll never leave you alone. Push me away, but I'll never leave you alone. I'll never leave you alone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All Now's coming out on Friday. Thank you so much. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this chat, make sure you subscribe to 101 Part-Time Jobs for more. We've done episodes with Idols, Yard Act, Self-Esteem, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, and so many more. We put out 2 episodes every week, and we'd love to have you there. Subscribe to 101 Part-Time Jobs on Spotify, Apple, and everywhere you get your podcasts.